welcome. My name's Dr. Vicki Haspels. I'm the Conscious Mystic, and this is the weekly forecast. Each week I like to bring through the wisdom of the tarot using my deck, the Mythic Tarot, and bring you through messages from Spirit, my interpretation, and the meanings of the cards. Each month I am going to be using a different tarot deck. I thought I might just start mixing it up a bit, so it'll still be for the whole week, and we'll have a look at the way different tarot spreads actually can, to give a different interpretation, just to mix it up a bit and make it a bit more interesting. And you will also see on my YouTube channel a demonstration of that particular spread as well. Each month I'll pop up an explanation there as well. So let's get started. This is for week commencing September 16th, 2024. Let's begin. Okay, so I'm going to use a particular 6-card spread, and I don't have the name of it. I'm going to have to make up a name for it, but when you see the instruction video, I'll have a name worked out for it by then. Now, this takes us from the conscious self through to the wisdom of the soul for the week. It's a spread I use a lot in my work, and it encompasses all parts of the journey. So let's begin. So this is for week commencing September 16th, 2024. So the first card I'm going to use is what is called the conscious self. So here we have the conscious self this week is 10 of Wands. So 10 of Wands, as you can see, represents that the part of us that is a little bit overwhelmed. We know all the tasks and we're really good at collecting all that together, and we're actually quite capable. But for this week, for some reason, we know that those tasks are a little bit overwhelming and we may have put too much on our shoulders. It's not because we don't know what to do, or that there's something coming up that is influencing us or stopping us. We'll find out a bit later what's going on. But for now, this is the conscious part of us. We know that we have probably taken a bit too much on. And I just get a feeling, again, the sense is here that we normally have this level of obligations and responsibilities on our shoulders. But for some reason, this week, those responsibilities feel a little bit more overwhelming than usual. And as the spread goes on, we're going to find out why. But this is the stuff that we know. Okay, now the next card we're looking at. So the next card we're looking at is the unconscious self. The unconscious self here is the Hierophant. So for me, the unconscious part of us, the subconscious part of us, is the inner drive. It can be our soul wisdom. It can be our guidance or our higher learning, but it's something I like to think that keeps us on track. So whenever we get off track about what the conscious self is wanting to experience this week, the unconscious part of us brings us back into alignment with what it is that we are needing to bring into our lives in order to facilitate that and make it a bit easier, or make that a bit of a better understanding. So for this time we have the Hierophant. So what is our unconscious asking us to remember, or to bring us back into alignment with who we are? The Hierophant represents a mentor. It represents higher learning. It represents a part of us that we know that higher wisdom. We may have already learned it, or it might be back in our life again to reincorporate into ourselves, so that our higher self or our subconscious self is asking us to remember what it is that we've learned for ourselves on this journey. It may be a particular practice that we've forgotten to incorporate into our lives, like meditation. It may be something that we learned, a particular procedure or system that we learned that helps us feel more connected to who we are. And it can be in our everyday lives. It doesn't have to be a spiritual practice like healing, but because we're talking about our soul selves, it talks to our soul so that we don't feel so overwhelmed with the conscious self. So if we're feeling overwhelmed, where is it that we have learned a thing or a process to make our lives a bit easier? As I said, it could be meditation, it could be reaching out to someone to give us a hand, a former teacher of some sort, or it could be something that we've learned like a self-healing, or reaching out to our healer or a reader. It's someone that has guided us through that system or given us the tools to get through that overwhelm. So the next card that we're going to look at is the challenge card. It also can be called the fear card. It can also be called the shadow card. I like to think of this card, this position, as what we are, like our blocks, and what is it that we are striving to reach, overcome, or understand in our lives. Something about ourselves that we don't like, or our life that we don't like. But once we bring it up into the light, then we have a better understanding about where we are holding ourselves up. So the card we have is the Ten of Swords. So I remember I said to you that we'll work out what it is that's overwhelming us and what we can perhaps use to get back on track, because that's what the Hierophant is showing us. So the Ten of Swords is a healing card. You can have a look here. It's timeout card. So where is it that we have learned, that we have overwhelmed ourselves and got ourselves into a space where we have taken too much on? We know this, but we still feel that we are capable of doing all of these things. And so, the Ten of Swords is telling us that we are rejecting that learning or that understanding of time out, of taking time for ourselves, and remembering that if we don't, we are going to be in a position where we will be taken out, and we must rest. So this is the choice here in the shadow part, or the shadow section of the challenges, is that we are going to be constantly overwhelmed if we are not going to take time out and do those things that we know heal us. Otherwise, we're going to be back down and we'll be taken out of the picture. And our guidance, our inner wisdom, is reminding us that we have been already shown by teachers, by healers, by someone who that we have reached out to, that has given us something of a greater knowledge, a bigger learning. And we remember that it actually works for us. So let's try incorporating that. Remember to do that. Otherwise, we will be down here, flat out, and having to take time out again. So bringing everything back into balance. Okay, the next card we're looking at is the action card. Where or how will we put these things into action? What are we going to do about it? It's always an interesting card because sometimes you might be ignoring it. Let's have a look. What's the action? Oh, that's the Wheel of Fortune. So the Wheel of Fortune requires no action. It is actually going with the flow. So if we have conscious self-overwhelm, and we know the processes that are going to prevent us from being laid up or taken out of the game for a bit so that we can recover, the Wheel of Fortune is going to say to us, right, it's going to say to us, I'm getting a message, so just bear with me. The Wheel of Fortune is telling us that we are going to see an old pattern playing out. So the action that we're going to take is that we have an opportunity to step in and not see that old pattern play out. Now, what this means is that when the Wheel of Fortune is in action, we can't really stop the wheel. That's the wheel of life. However, we can be reminded there are certain guide points along the way that says, oh, I remember that. Oh, I remember when that happened. And we have those little guideposts along the way that says, oh, I know that if I keep continuing, I'm going to end up here. I also know that I can put something in place, but if we ignore it here, oh, okay, that's a little reminders. So the Wheel of Fortune, the action, it's actually reminders of we might get a little niggle in our body, we might get a little bit of stress, we might fall into the trap of toxic environments and toxic people. Incrementally, the Wheel of Fortune is reminding us of what has happened in the past, because circles within circles, cycles within cycles. We have lived this before and we remember. So the action is we will have little reminders and we have opportunities to take action because we'll remember, oh yeah, that happened to me last time. this worked for me last time because I remember. And so we can, like an intervention. Okay, that's the action. So the next card in this spread is the possible future for this week. Let's see. Possible future is the Devil. Oh, looks like we're going to have a really big sort of lesson this week about what it means to not fall into old patterns or old habits. So it doesn't have, again, it does not have to be a bad thing or a negative thing. The Devil is a card of addiction, of shame and guilt. So the possible future is that we will be reminded about old patterns. We may fall into old patterns, old cycles. So this week we get a reminder that we are on the road to falling back into those patterns. We are getting a heads up that so that we don't fall back into that type of behavior that trips us up, that gets us back into a cycle of like either dependence or toxic habits that will sort of pull us back. Even though we don't go backwards, we'll feel like we've fallen backwards into something. Now, I always like to look at the two sides of the Devil when he turns up, because yes, he can be about falling back into old habits, falling back into that default pattern of, oh, this was easy, like, binge eating, alcohol, just those things that make us feel crappy, but that is like a comfort zone, but not a happy comfort zone. So the opposite, or the other side of the Devil, is that when we follow the energy of this week, if we listen to ourselves, and so that we don't fall back into that old pattern of behavior, we get time to play. The Devil is also about being ourselves, showing up as who we are without fear or favor, without worrying about what other people think. It's the raw us, the perfect us. Now, in the instance of this card here, it might be, well, you know what? I'm just going to have to take some time out. Oh, I don't care. I'm going to do that. We're not going to feel guilty. We're not going to feel ashamed that perhaps we need to take a mental break or mental time out. It might be that we make time because we take care of these other responsibilities. We realize, oh, hang on, how can I offset that so that I don't get here? I'm going to have a day off. Go and have some fun. We're going to have a guilt-free day of fun. Remember, the two sides of the Devil, the guilt-free day of having healthy fun, where we actually release ourselves from an old pattern of behavior and do something that is perhaps things that we feel guilty about, but actually are good for us, or we're going to fall into our default pattern, our comfort zone, or perhaps some toxic behavior. Neither of those possible futures are good or bad. They are just who we are. They are a reminder of what happens and what choices we have when we get back into that old behavior of taking a little bit too much on, and our body and our mind and our spirit is saying to us, do you really want to go here this week? Okay, now the last card in this deck and this spread is called the Soul Journey. What is the spirit understanding about this week? What is our karmic lesson for this week? And the card is Queen of Cups. Oh, I like it. She ties in really nicely with what I just said. So she is all about, if you have a look at her, she looks like the cat that licked the cream, right? Look at her, that beautiful face. There we go. So she is all about feeling good about themselves. She's all about how we can indulge ourselves. It's how we can look after ourselves. I always think about her, about that saying, the cat that licked cream. I got it all. So invoking the Queen of Cups over all of this week means that when we are feeling overwhelmed, we are going to be selfish. Selfish in a way that says, I need to look after myself. When we invoke this card here, we're going to say, I actually learned something, even if it was, I remember doing something that actually helped me. It means seeking that out, exploring that again. Is that going to work for me? In here, it's going to say, you know what, I need to take some time out and I'm going to do it because it's all about me this week. When it comes to the Wheel of Fortune, we're going to remember, we're going to say, oh yeah, I have time to intervene in any of this cycle of falling down and feeling crappy again. I have an opportunity to intervene. And when it comes to the devil, we can either make it an indulgence that is destructive or an indulgence that lifts us up. Again, no judgment, right? It's how you feel. Sometimes that indulgence that makes us feel a bit toxic, we may need to revisit it. On the other hand, if you find something that looks after ourselves, and I'm talking about taking care of the self, because sometimes we feel guilty about it, then we're going to say, bugger it, I'm going to do it because this is who I am. Okay, that's the week ahead. So here we are. That was the week beginning September 16th, 2024. I will probably write up a little blog about it as well, so give us a longer explanation of the week. And I will see you next week for the weekly forecast. My name is Dr. Vicki Haspels. I'm the Conscious Mystic. Much love from me. Bye for now.